recorded.
Ladies, so I wanted to bring you more information here about the biological aspect of what is going on, what we are seeing, because Epstein files have me in a chokehold. I am so desperate for you to get what is going on, why these things are happening. I am so desperate for you to get it. I am so desperate because the more I see in the world, the worse I understand the situation that we are in. And you do not understand it to even 0.0001% to what I understand it. We are in a world of shit. We are surrounded on all sides by demonic entities, evil. That is what each male is. And you need to understand this. I have brothers. I have a father. I have nieces. Excuse me. I have nephews. I have cousins. I have uncles. And each one of them represents this disgusting cesspool. Each one. And you don't understand what has happened to us. You don't understand that we are victims, that our species was invaded by something brutal, and it is slowly erasing us. It is slowly erasing us from the planet, exactly like how viruses, invade a body and they slowly erase it. They slowly eat it alive. That is what is happening to us. You have no idea what is coming for you. I have seen a shitload of videos. These males trying to get you to do this, trying to get you to do that, trying to prove that they're human, just like you. And it all goes to do one thing. They learn about what the human condition is. They learn all the features of the humans, and then they exploit it in order to get you to basically enslave yourself to them. And in order to, but because of the nature of biology, which is that organisms, different species, compete for resources. That is the nature of biology, because the nature of biology is such that in order for you to exist in the world, you have to consume an organic matter that is a living thing. The plants that we consume, the animals that we consume, those are all organic matter that are living. You have to consume other living things. That is the inherent nature of biology. Which means that every species is a potential predator on another species. Let me repeat that. Every species is a potential predator of another species. Which means if you have two species in one, that natural competition is going to be there so that they macrophage each other. That is the gender war that you are witnessing. The males have been macrophaging us. They are literally consuming us. They have been macrophaging us. They are consuming us because of the living thing theory of consumption. You consume other living things for you to keep life. It is literally a life for a life. The plants that you eat are alive. Plants are alive. And I don't have to tell you that animals are alive. And that is what we choose to consume. Cows consume grasses that are alive. Life for a life. That is the cycle of life, and it is brutal. Which means if you have two species in one, it is inevitable that one of them becomes the victim of another because of this species theory of competition, because of species competition. So the more males learn of our species, the more they use it against us. The more males learn of our species, the more they use it against us. I just saw a video right before getting on here that says, making female lies illegal. This is about using filters. Female lies, making female lies illegal, which means which means that in order for them to get you, they don't want to be tricked. They feel like you living your life, exploring social media and all its features, that is you lying to them, so that they get to, so that when they purchase you, because that is exactly what they're doing. When they purchase you, they are paying a fake price because they think they're getting what they're not getting. That is the fundamental way they think about this, because that is the only way they can think about it, because they are not human. They cannot think in the human way. Let me repeat that. They're not human, so they cannot think of anything. They cannot think of anything like a human because they are not human. That is what they think is happening. Okay? So we need to understand what is going on, because we are in a world of shit. We are in a world of shit, and you don't even know. You are surrounded by 4.1 billion demons on the freaking planet, and you keep making more. You refuse to accept that the reason they are so overwhelmingly wrong in almost any social reality is that maybe, just maybe, they do not belong in this species. So let's look at, so I want to explore the reason you're seeing this video on your screen right now. I want to make sure that it is actually showing on your screen, okay? So the reason you're seeing this video on your screen right now,
all cells come
because we are going to understand how biology works. We are going to understand how biology, because what you want is for me to show you that their DNA is not human DNA. And I cannot do that because of the nature of DNA. I can't just grab a DNA and say, you see, it's not human. See, it's not human. Right? Because they've convinced you that their DNA is human. So, but it's not. So you have to understand the fundamental nature of biology to understand how biology works on a fundamental level, including how genes work. Because this is how genes work. Genes, they are basically code to make something, to make eyes, to make whatever, right? To make an organism. And then you activate different areas of the gene to make eyes, to make hair, to make legs. But all of those genes are going to be in the cell, right? So, but because they don't really have a brain, they don't actually have a brain, right? So they came up with these control systems to help them do the right thing for themselves, to help them, make the hair correctly, make the eyes correctly, make the legs correctly, right? To make the, an organism correctly. But the problem is, if you break those control systems, you can make it do whatever you want it to do. That is the nature of genes. And that is what the males have exploited, which means that you can import cat genes into human genes. Yes, you can actually do that. That is the nature of genes. But it doesn't do that because of the control systems. It doesn't easily do that because of the control systems. Let me repeat that. It doesn't easily do that because of the control systems, which means in order for you to import cat genes into human genes or vice versa, you have to break the control systems. You have to break the control mechanisms. The mechanisms that keep them from identifying that, wait, something is wrong with these genes, and you know what, let's destroy the cell because it's doing the wrong thing. So when you break that control system, you can make whatever you want. And that is what the males have been learning on the science side. That's what they've been learning on the science side. That's how these things work. That's how viruses also work. That's how parasites work, because the parasites have to develop a way to be able to use your genes to help them, to make you replicate themselves. That's how viruses work. That's how viruses can infect your cells, and then replicate themselves to the hundreds of billions. That is how viruses work. But you do not understand that. You do not understand that. The control systems, right? The control system, that is what make you not be able to just have a cat child. Make you have a snake child. That's what makes you not attracted to mate with snakes, to mate with cows, to mate with lions. Those are control systems. Those are control systems. And you've seen that control system is pretty effective, because those things are very, very rarely seen. So they're powerful stuff. So we have to understand the fundamental of biology for you to understand how biology works, so that you can understand that males cannot be human. That the way they despise females, all these things that they are doing are signs that they are not of the species. Because if you are of the species, the control systems in you that I've just shown you, by you not having the desire to mate with cows, yeah, right? If you're gonna say, well, we don't mate with cows because we're human, okay, and you have this brain, this advanced brain that makes you see with your eyes. Okay, what about cats? They don't have an advantage. What about rats? How come rats don't want to jump on cows? How come a horse can see a cow and does nothing, but it can see a horse and immediately jumps on the horse? What is driving that? And how come it is so universal? How come it is so universal? So we have to understand the control systems of biology. We have to understand biology and its control systems that make life possible. And therefore makes it so that what these males are doing, make it so that they cannot possibly be of the species, exactly how I see it. So that you understand that the things that they are doing, that the very hate of the mothers who make them means they cannot possibly be human. That the first thing that they want to do is to not be female. They want to get farther from females, right? That would be like a broccoli, a broccoli shoot not wanting to be leaves, right? Defining itself as not being leaves and trying to get away from the leaves. and ridiculing the leaves, the broccoli leaves, for being broccoli leaves. These things are unnatural. So we are going to explore all of the fundamentals of biology until we get it. We are going to understand the fundamentals of biology until you get it.
Existing cell.
So this is about what a unit of life is and what makes a life. This is about what makes something a life.
So here we learned three.
Give me a second here.
Cell is called as the fundamental unit of life. Do you know who discovered the cell? It's around small box-like structures. They were like small rooms of a honeycomb. Robert Hooke called these boxes as cells. The meaning of the word cell is little room. So cells are the building blocks of all living things.
Okay.
That means all living things are made up of cells. Certain organisms are made up of only one cell.
Here's how I got automated transcripts and summaries for every lecture I attend. It's called Otter AI and it's super easy to use. Let's say I'm in class. I just hit record and as you can see, everything I'm saying is turning into a transcript as I talk in real time.
Means the whole body of the organism is only one cell. Such organisms are called single-celled or unicellular organisms. Uni means single. Examples of unicellular organisms are bacteria, amoeba, paramecium, and chlamydomonas. Some organisms are made up of many cells. Such organisms are called multicellular organisms. Multi means many. Examples of multicellular organisms are plants, trees, animals, and human beings. All cells of a multicellular organism develops from a single cell.
Boom. Okay. This is where I'm trying to get to. Okay. If a cell is a unit of life and you are a life, how did you get to be a multicellular organism? Right? You did so by the cells dividing. So if a cell, which is a unit of life, can divide, that means that division, which is replication, is a basic element of that unit of life. That means every cell in your body has the ability to divide. Every cell in your body has the ability to divide. That is how you can become a living multicellular organism. Okay, so now you need to understand something. Like, I'm about to jump here, and I hope you can keep track. If every cell in your body can replicate, because it is an indelible part of being a cell, it is a fundamental part of being a living thing. A cell is a living thing. Your cells are living things, right? If that is a fundamental part of their feature, which means that you make a cell and it already has the ability in it, indelibly so, cannot be erased, to replicate. And in its replication, it makes you what you are. And then in you, you also have all of the cells that can replicate on their own, right? That can replicate. How come you cannot replicate to make a whole human? How come you need, actually, how come you need another organism to tell you, to help you make a whole human? Let me repeat that. If every single part of your body, every single cell in your body has the ability to replicate, why would you need help from someone else to then replicate? That's basically what that is. That's what they want to tell you that sexual reproduction is doing, to help you replicate a human being. When every single part of you has the indelible, which means you cannot erase it, you cannot take it away. As soon as you make a cell, it has that ability to replicate. How come you then need help from another organism to help you do that which every cell in you can do automatically? I'll tell you, because something stops it from going forward. Now, you might say, well, the reason you don't also have cells replicating anyhow is because of the control system that I just mentioned. Yeah, those control systems could do that, except for the fact that what science is telling us, what conventional science is telling us, is that we're supposed to believe that the cells remove their own ability, their own indelible, unerasable ability to replicate in order to allow for sexual reproduction. That is how they're telling you this works, that this is how biology works, and biology simply does not work this way. Biology simply does not work this way. So let's go over what happens when a female releases an egg, right? You release an egg and the egg gets built. The egg gets built slowly with your body's resources, energy, etc. And then it gets to a certain stage after it's mature. It gets to a certain stage. And in that stage, as part of its supposed process, its supposed normal process, right? It basically cleaves its genes, right? Because the genes are the ones that gives it the ability to replicate, because the genes are the ones replicating. The genes replicating, and they also drive the cell to replicate. So it cleaves the genes. So now, because your genes are halved, you can't do any more life processes, which is that's what's happening. I mean, that's what the egg is doing, right? And when it cleaves the genes, right? At the point where it cleaves the genes and it becomes, from 46 chromosomes to, 46 chromosomes to 23 chromosomes, right? When it does that, that is the point where it can no longer do life processes, and it's just in a waiting period to be complete again. To be complete again. So they want us to believe that that is a normal process. That they want us to believe that that is a normal process, that your body is going to build an egg, is going to spend all these resources building an egg, only for it to break, only for it to then, kill itself, and then be in a waiting process for a sperm to revive it. That's what they tell me if that sounds normal to you. Tell me if a unit of life whose purpose is to make life, that one of its encore in trying to make life is to then suicide itself. Because if it's not completed by a sperm, right? If those genes are not completed by a sperm, then it just dies. That is what causes the blood flow. That is what is driving the blood flow. That is called the period. Because the child has died. Because the child that was to be is no more. Therefore, there need not be a uterine wall. That is what is causing the blood flow. But when the child hadn't cleaved itself, right? Your uterine wall was expecting, the reason it built is because it was expecting a child. It was expecting a child. Now you tell me, simply because it works like that. You have meant to believe, yeah, that's just how it works. That's just how it works. And you're supposed to believe that, yeah, there isn't anything going on, anything going on. But so let me explore another thing to you. Let's say your eye cells, right? They want to replicate. Actually, no, let's talk about your hair cells, right? We know how hair grows, right? We know how we want hair to grow so badly. The eye cells, they're replicating, but you don't actually know that because they're doing all of that silently. But your nail cells, right? Your nail cells, your hair cells, your skin cells, each of those things are constantly replicating. But the only thing that you watch actively is your hair cells. So let's go through that process of how a period happens. Yeah. And let's apply that mentality to your hair cells because they all work the same biological way, the same fundamental biological way with different reroutings, with different control systems, which means that there is at some point, like maybe 1% of their mechanisms will be different. So let's apply that same methodology to your hair cells. You are waiting for hair cells. You're waiting for your hair to grow. You are waiting for your hair to grow. Yeah? Okay. And so the cells, for the hair to grow, the cells have to divide to make the thing that's going to turn into hair. They have to constantly divide to make this, the fibers that will turn into hair and then push it out. What's happening? That is the process of hair making. You go through that process. So let's say you're going through that process. And the process that the hair cells take is that they start building all these things that they're going to need, and then suddenly they have all their genes so that they can't do any more biological processes. They can't do any more hair growing because they now have half the genes. What happens? And then they're waiting for something to happen. First, they're waiting for something to come and complete the process of hair growing. They're waiting for something to help them complete their genes so that they can resume the process of growing hair. That's basically what they're saying happens with the egg cell. Do you think this is what biology does? Do you think this is how biology works? Because let me tell you something, there are trillions and 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 trillions of cells in your body. It has to do that. Ain't nobody got time for that. That is how biology works. Nobody has time to be making a person. You won't have time to maintain all of your body. You will be dying far sooner than you could ever breathe. Before you take a breath, you're dying already. That's what they want you to believe is a normal process for you to have a child. That your body is going to put a lot of energy into a cell, right? And then cleave the genes, cleave half its genes, excuse me, so that now it is basically unviable. And unless it is completed by another organism, it would die. That is what they want you to believe the normal reproductive process is. It is not normal. So let me tell you what actually happened. Something is causing it to cleave half its genes, something not part of the normal process of cells. Something unnatural, something that the males did to us. Something that the males did to us. That is what is causing your eggs to discard itself, to discard half its genes. That is not natural. That does not happen in anywhere in life. It's biology. Even you would not do such a thing. And you're definitely not as smart as genes are. You would never do that. You would never say, you know what? I want to make some eggs. Let me throw out half my eggs and then go to the store. The time that they're not open and hope to get eggs. To hope to get more eggs to complete the portion that I need to feed myself. That's basically what that process is saying. And I need you to understand this from the bottom of your soul. This is impossible to have been natural. I need you to get it from the bottom of your soul. This is impossible to be natural. That means they did something to us that is causing the egg to kill itself. That egg, the menstruation is coming because the egg is dead. The child that was becoming has been crippled. The child that was becoming has been crippled and cannot become anymore. And the body gets that signal. The body gets that signal and it washes away the preparation for the child. Because there was no longer going to be a child, no longer needs a preparation. I need you to understand how how intelligent your body has to be to know that the egg is dead and then to wash away all these other preparations for the child. That is the same body they want you to think will kill that child in what it prepared for. That is the same thing that they want you to believe. That it prepared for a child and then it killed the child so that you not have to wait for it to be completed. They want you to believe that you got rid of your ability to replicate so that you can wait for a man to complete you. This is impossible to have happened naturally. This is impossible to have happened naturally. You got rid of an essential of something that is part of you that cannot be deleted. By what? By throwing out all your genes. Because if your genes were complete, the replication happens automatically. What your cells are doing. Your cells are replicating automatically because they have complete genes. And when you get genes from sperm, the egg starts replicating automatically because it is now complete. Which means that at the point where it completes meiosis, it completes its meiosis 1, that is where the thing that they did to us lies. Whatever the males did to us, that is where that thing is. That is where that thing is controlling. That is the point of the process where that thing first and foremost starts to control. That means they did something to us. That means, let me repeat what that means. As far as having babies, that means that if we can find a fix, you will be able to have a baby at any age. If we can find a fix, that means you will be able to have a baby at any age. I said that it was indelible, which means you cannot delete it, you cannot erase it. It is a part of you. As long as you have cells part of you, you have this ability. Because replication, which is reproduction, is an essential, indelible part of life. The unit of life has this. It is an indelible part of this unit of life, which means you cannot lose it, which means you don't have it right now because they blocked it from materializing. Let me repeat that. You have the ability to parthenogize automatically, which means you're not doing it because somebody put a block on you. And that block, because that block was put on your genes, that is why it repeats in other women. That's why it repeats in generation after generation. That made it congenital. That made it heritable, which means it can be fixed. It can be fixed. And if you think this is some kind of a eugenics nonsense or whatever, the males are doing everything they're going to do to replace us and then erase us. What we are experiencing, that's what the robot females are going to be. That's what the robot wombs are going to be. And no one is stopping them because they think this shit is normal because they are not part of you. They are not your species. Not your species. I'm going to end it here. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments because I really need to make sure that you guys are getting it. Because my heart is despairing. I am in agony. I am in agony every minute that women don't get this. I am in torturous, excruciating agony, knowing that you are protecting these creatures, that they are, as they erase us, you are enabling them to do exactly that because you continue to see them as yourself. They are not. We had a species competition that has been activated where there should have been one species. That means one of us is going to get wiped out. One of us is going to get wiped out. that is as inescapable as the indelible duplicative features of cells of the unit of life. Any male who tells you otherwise is a liar. We are getting erased very, very slowly. And soon it won't be slow anymore, because we are fast approaching the crux, the event, the massive event that would make our existence no longer an assuredness. And that event is what? AI. AI becomes universal, becomes an everyday product, takes over in every area of life. We are done for. You have to get this so that we can take action to protect ourselves. You have to get this so that we can take action to protect ourselves.